What is up, y'all? Welcome to this episode of Santa Cruz Medicinals Radio. We have Dr. Clay Moss in the building. Going to help you guys with your health today. This episode is going to give you a lot of tangible stuff you can take with you to level up your health. Clay, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. Pumped to be here.
Stoked, dude. So tell me about sort of your history in medicine. Like, why'd you become a doctor? What inspired you to do that?
Yeah, I grew up in the Panhandle of Florida, and kind of right when I was in my elementary, middle school kind of upbringing, the Andrews Institute moved into town, which was like the mecca of sports medicine at that time. So Dr. Andrews was like who did knee surgeries on literally any athlete ever that would have a problem. And then athletes started coming there for like the NFL Combine. And so I'd be walking home from school and see like Tim Tebow or Shaquille O'Neal or like all these big athletes in a small town. And so I grew up with like this framework of human performance, and I just wanted to kind of get into that world. I thought it was going to be through the surgery route. So I was like, I'll be a surgeon. I kind of fell in love with orthopedics, plastic surgery, kind of anything that restored form or function. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one thing led to another. I went to college. I had this whole kind of health journey of my own. Like I had strep throat 21 or 22 times within a 4-year span. Like I was constantly going like once every month or two and getting tested and testing positive for strep and getting antibiotics and getting a steroid shot and kind of getting put through the ringer. So I was like, had my own little patient side of the story to it. And all the while I'm trying to also become a physician. So it was kind of this weird because I was developing like somewhat of a hatred towards the medical system while I was trying to join the medical system. Got into med school. COVID hits right halfway through the first year of med school, right? I was kind of in that camp that I was, you know, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was kind of indoctrinated. I was telling all my friends that they were selfish if they didn't take the COVID vaccine because that's what we're taught in medical school. Yeah. And then I think, you know, taking my experience from being a patient and then also like one thing after another during that whole cycle of COVID during my early medical school years, I was like starting to develop a little bit more and more distrust. Like I had a horrible reaction to the COVID vaccine, especially the booster. Then I got COVID and it wasn't that bad because I went home for the summer in Pensacola and was outside all the time while all my friends were inside, like not going out and quarantined, and they were having horrible reactions to COVID.
That was the wild. I got it and I didn't know I had it. I was surfing, come back one day, I told my wife, I'm like, I have like a headache, but like whatever. I got some waves next day, like whatever. And then I took a test and it's like, you have COVID. I'm like, what? And then like, I was fine in a few days. Like food poisoning in Italy was worse, way worse than COVID. So
100%.
Yeah, that was, I
and the
agree.
early COVID too, the one that was like supposed to be the worst one.
Yeah. And I was like, that just wasn't bad for me. And I know, you know, okay, old people, all this, but like I'm talking to young, healthy people right now. And I think a lot of young, healthy people had that similar reaction of, wait, what the fuck is going on? Like you've ruined our lives. You know, a lot of these young people wrecked our lives. You know, when I was living in the Bay Area, my wife and I, one of the reasons we moved down here is we lived across from a school. And during the pandemic, we go outside one day to walk our little dog, Churro, and we see kids, probably 7 years old, 8 years old, lined up with masks on. Like it looked like, it was just like a freaky looking thing. Yeah. And then I started diving into the data and I'm like, where is the data that a healthy 8-year-old should be masked up outdoors? What's going on? So stuff like that, we're like, oh, like San Diego's still California, but it's a little different politically. And I think if there was another pandemic, they do view it a bit differently. So yeah, a little bit of freedom. But yeah, it's a wake up call. So you kind of started to have that wake up call.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Florida too, which not nearly as crazy as California probably handled it, but still they weren't letting people on the beach. My parents lived in a beach condo at the time. And I remember sitting on the balcony and seeing like one person go from the parking lot like out to the beach, and within 5 minutes, all the cops were there, like taking them off the beach and everything, arresting them. So it got a little crazy there too. And you know, I go back to school. I spent this whole summer back home, like when they kind of sent us home to figure everything out. I spent this whole summer working in this place called the Institute for Human Performance and Machine Cognition, where we dealt with like a lot of high performing athletes, but especially SOCOM, you know, special forces guys, like trying to do a lot of DARPA funded projects for them. So I spent the whole summer like playing with AR-15s and outside, and you know, COVID wasn't really an issue for me. And then I go back to school, forced to take all the COVID vaccines. You know, had horrible reactions. I had a lymph node the size of a softball, chest pain, went to the ER twice thinking that I was having a heart attack. They couldn't explain the symptoms. Forced to get like a third booster because they told me they'd kick me out of med school. So yeah,
so annoying.
Yeah, and I think when you learn that early in, especially the didactic years of medical school, where you're actually like learning the basis of health, or at least what you think it is, then you start looking at it a little bit differently. To where now I'm going through my education and learning and thinking to myself, like, why are we spending 2 years on pharmacology learning about like these obscure chemotherapy drugs that 99.7% of us will never see in practice. And yet we're spending less than 12 hours on nutrition. We don't mention anything about supplementation. We don't mention what optimal lab values are. It's based on 95% of the population. And so I kind of just changed my mind. I didn't love surgery as much as I thought I wanted to. So I went into this field called PM&R, which is physical medicine and rehabilitation. Nobody knows what it means. Physiatry too. It's got 10 different names. Probably the reason why nobody knows. But basically what we do is either from the inpatient perspective, taking care of people with brain injury, spinal cord injury, stroke, any sort of, crazy car accidents, things like that. We're trying to take people from where they are when they get stabilized in the hospital and trying to give them a life again, right? We're asking the question, like, what are you capable of, instead of like, what's wrong with you? Like, kind of like the rest of medicine tends to do. So it's a little bit more holistic for me. And I'm kind of using that. I'm in my 4th year right now, or going into my 4th year. And I'm using that as a way to kind of connect this new functional medicine, longevity type crowd.
Yeah.
So I'm also paying for other forms of education while I'm in residency, so that when I get out, I can create some sort of practice that I at least wanted whenever I was the patient, or something that at least is more on the preventative side of things, where we're not just chasing, symptoms with Band-Aids. We're actually trying to fix whatever's going on from the root
For sure.
cause.
And like, we can talk about my knee, because now I've experienced a lot of this firsthand. And there's basically this, and we'll get into some of the regenerative medicine stuff and sort of the future of regenerative medicine discussion here. So like, when I tore my knee, it's like the standard thing to do is you just go get surgery.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is influenced by the insurance model of healthcare, where your insurance says you have issue in your knee, the solution is surgery, then you can get PT and you're back. And while that is a really good protocol for many people, and like when I do more in-depth content about my knee, you guys will see that I am recommending surgery for a lot of people. But then I'm like in a unique position where I talked to this lady who said, from all the data we have, the best practice is actually to do a few months of rehab and then get surgery, is what she was saying. And then the other side of it is talking to doctors like Dr. Kieran Richardson, who anybody can look up. He gives lectures on this subject of full tears of ACL regrowing. There's multiple trials on this. There's a Canon trial. There's a few studies on this. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like what I'm trying to do right now is use my knee as like a experiment. I'm willing to do it, a case study, and kind of see what's possible with a multitude of factors. So I start talking to doctors like Dr. Kieran Richardson, who's like, I've seen ACL tears just like yours fully regrow and the athletes return to high level sport. And that is just with good PT. So I'm like, okay, well, what happens if I do good PT, a myriad of peptides? We were talking about Dr. Abood. It was just on Huberman. Myriad of peptides into the knee. I'm getting bone marrow aspirate concentrate, which is basically a form of stem cells, into the knee. I'm getting PRP, which I'd love to talk PRP with you, because I feel like it's really widely available now and it's not so niche anymore. I'm getting that on Thursday. I'm doing hyperbaric chamber. I'm doing red light. I'm doing soft wave. I'm doing blood flow restriction training. I'm doing all this stuff.
You're like our Brian Johnson for the knee.
Yeah, I know. We'll see. And then like even just like consuming a good amount of collagen, like basic stuff like that are things you can do for rehab. So I get another MRI 3 weeks later, which is still very early. I just wanted to get one just for fun. The other aspect of this, when I'm researching all this no surgery rehab stuff, people don't go get MRIs because they're too fucking expensive for people to go get. And our system, as you know, is just pretty cooked for that. You have to get it ordered. It can get ordered, but you just can't go sending people to the MRI, every 5 weeks.
You want to pay cash?
Yeah, exactly. So like people would have to pay cash, and it's a decent amount of money for most people.
But it's also not as much as the system leads you to believe it is sometimes. Like how much was it for you? Like
I think like $400.
Yeah. But they'll convince you that it's like $10,000 to go get an MRI, because that's what insurance will charge.
And they make it difficult because you can't, like my PTs can't order MRIs and then have to get a radiologist to like interpret it. They literally make it difficult to get the file of my own MRI. Like it's a archaic system that I think a lot of people don't have the bandwidth to navigate. But I'm like, I fucking do. let's go. So I get another MRI, which starts to show some scar tissue and granulation tissue, which you need to start to have that ligament regrow. And so that's a very positive sign right now. And like we were talking about before, basically I'm going to see what's up in late summer, how some of these treatments have gone, and then either get surgery or continue trying to regrow it on my own. We will see what happens. So people asking me, surgery is not a bad option. If I played in the NFL and I had a contract to get back to, I would get surgery right away and start the rehab right away. Carlos Olberg blew out his ACL in a fight. What should Carlos Olberg do? He should get the surgery by people who have treated athletes, and he should be back in 9 months so he can make money in the UFC.
He's also probably doing a lot of those other things post-surgery.
Yeah, for sure. And there's better outcomes with those. The graft heals better. You have less re-tear rates. And so given the fact that I'm not a professional athlete, I have the resources to be able to delay potential surgery. It's not going to affect my job or whatever. I'm like, okay, let's give this a go.
Yeah.
So PRP is something I want to talk about. It's platelet-rich plasma, and they take your blood, they spin it in a centrifuge.
Yeah.
They take out like a layer of your blood that has a lot of healing capabilities, and then they inject it into injuries. What have you seen with PRP? Are you a fan of it?
Yeah. So we do it a lot. I actually work probably 60% of the time during my residency training at the VA hospital. So I work with a ton of veterans. And wildly enough, one of the very few things that the VA will cover over the general population is PRP. They actually used to do stem cells. They stopped covering that. But we do a ton of PRP injections. So I've probably done like 300 or 400 so far in veterans' knees, shoulders, elbows, whether it be tendons or actually into the joints. Mm-hmm. There's two versions of PRP. I'd be interested in which ones you're actually going to be getting. There are leukocyte-rich, which is basically like more white blood cells that stimulate more inflammation locally to kind of facilitate more of a healing response. And then there's leukocyte-poor, which still does the same thing, but not to as much of an extent. Usually leukocyte-poor we're putting into joints themselves. Leukocyte-rich, we try to like put more into like if you tore your rotator cuff or like your bicep tendon, we're trying to create more of an inflammatory response. So that's just kind of the way it's been studied. But yeah, you basically spin it in a centrifuge and you're taking off the very top layer, which is super dense in growth factors. People like to say stem cells. There's a very low yield of stem cells in there because you're taking it from the blood, and the blood just doesn't have a ton of stem cells like you would if you came from like, subcutaneous fat or if you got it from bone marrow. So not as much of a stem cell response, but it bathes the joint or the area, or in your case, your ACL, in this highly inflammatory but short-lived environment with healing factors. So not only are you getting healing factors directly to that area, but you're also stimulating your body to be like, oh shit, something's going on. We need to send more of our healing factors towards that area. So I'm a big fan of it. And I think like, if you went and got it cash pay, because insurance doesn't cover it outside of the VA, it'd probably be like $500, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The PRP part of what I'm doing is not crazy expensive, where that's the thing. Like, I think this can help a lot of people with like injury protocols where surgery is recommended very fast to people.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of orthopedic surgeons. I'm sure you are as well. Like when I met with my orthopedic surgeon or potential, like they come from a very good place, and it's a rational thing to be like, hey, I've treated athletes and gotten them back to NFL in 9 months. Like, you should just get the surgery because I can get you back to performing at an extremely high level.
Yeah.
And so they're coming from a good place. But for many people, I feel like, for me, like one of the reasons I want to try no surgery is I also don't know with the future of regenerative medicine. You're seeing stuff like the bear implant have like some success. I'm like, it's like wishy-washy right now, but I'm like, where are we going to be in 10 to 15 years? Yeah. Is there going to be anything where if you have your native ACL, maybe a future type of bear implant, which is like basically to grossly summarize it, like they're blasting collagen into your ACL, and they can do it into a graft as well, and like that helps it grow. Like I probably butchered that, but
but everybody's got their own story too. Like Joe Rogan always talks about how, because he's had both ACLs done, I think, and he said one of them was the cadaver implant, and he like loves it. Right?
Yes, and I was my orthopedic surgeon wanted to do cadaver as well, and then other orthopedic surgeons like, oh, he wants to do cadaver, like no. So you get this whole like debate going, and then I've heard from a lot of people that have gone and had MRIs and been like, oh, I have a labrum tear.
Yeah.
But then they treat it no surgery and they're totally fine, whereas someone was recommending they get a surgery. So with stuff like PRP, people can go get this relatively affordably. It's not an insane amount of money. And that combined with good physical therapy might be able to stimulate the healing that they're looking for.
Right. I think the combination part is kind of the key. And we see this with a bunch of different things, right? People want one quick fix and not want to put in any work behind it.
Yeah.
Which that's just the way we are as human nature. I would love one quick fix and to not be able to put any work, right?
For sure.
But if you're stacking things, like for instance, it's just like the biohacking world. Like if you're stacking doing sauna and red light and grounding and PEMF, like it's not like you want to go spend 45 minutes on each one of these things, but if you can do it all in an hour, like great.
For sure.
So if you're doing, if you are doing BPC 157, which we have great, at least anecdotal data, some animal studies saying that it could help, tissue repair. If you're doing PRP, which we actually do have a lot of data on, if you're going down the route of, I know you mentioned hyaluronic acid too, that can at least provide somewhat of like a lubricant effect. So maybe after you have that short inflammatory response, you don't have, nagging inflammation from just like chronic rubbing together. There also are some other benefits, but not as much as like the PRP. If you're taking supplements, if you're doing PT, I mean, you obviously do all of the things. You're also doing hyperbaric, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of data around that. It's not widely available, unfortunately, but there's a ton of data around it, from anything from diabetic wound healing to even like bipolar and depression too. So
yeah, providing more oxygen to places that don't get a lot of oxygen.
Right.
And I think like what I'm doing with my knee is probably going to be the future of injury rehab. I mean, even the somewhat near future. It's like stuff like BPC 157, TB 500, GHKCU. They are extremely affordable.
Right.
We're in this regulatory shit show right now that I'm actually pretty frustrated by, because it's like listening to Abood on Huberman. You're like, dude, this is holding people back from something they want and can benefit a lot of people. And when our medical system doesn't act fast enough with stuff like those peptides, it frustrates me, because somebody like my mom is not going to take BPC until someone in a lab coat at Stanford tells her, you should be taking BPC.
Yeah. Or if she crosses that threshold and she does go do it herself, you're forcing people that really don't know what they're doing to not only mix their own peptides, which is hard enough. Like if you're mixing peptides and trying to figure out the exact right dosage, like some people will be taking 100 times the dose that they really want to, right?
There's a lot of, I mean, peptides, it's a basic intelligence test to reconstitute, but like a lot of people are kind of retarded. We've heard of people who, a 17-year-old injecting like 15 milligrams of Retta on his first thing and just being in the hospital. Yeah. Like
for sure.
That happens.
And you're forcing it to kind of a back alley, like dark web place where you're buying research grade peptides. And like there probably are some great research grade places out there, but they don't have the incentives as like a compounding pharmacy to actually purify it. That like some of these filters that compounding pharmacies are using are like $5,000 to make sure that there's no endotoxin. You're getting exactly what you want in there. And then most of these research grade, when they do, the third party testing, let's just say there's no toxins in there, but there's still usually like anywhere between like a 15 to 20%, more or less of what you're actually getting in the bottle is what you're receiving.
A lot of these places you're getting like stepped on product. It's like it's either getting really old or sometimes it's like not lab tested. Luckily, we have a connection, Cellvita Peptides. They make like really good stuff. And so like I'm hitting it with that. I'm very confident that it's like what I'm getting is clean. What I'm getting is what it is.
Yeah.
There's stories of people trying to take BPC and they suddenly turn tan because it's like it's MT2 in there. Like it's a shit show out there.
Or having like anaphylaxis and they're taking the same vial of BPC. They've just gotten like 3 or 4 vials from the same place, and for some reason one of those vials is contaminated with something, and they have to like end up in the hospital with an EpiPen because their throat closed up. Like I've heard that story 100 times.
For sure, it's a big problem. So it's like I really hope our government kind of comes around and starts to help the American people get access to these things and lead us to like be able to do more research on them, because I mean, I'm going to my PTs, I'm getting, and they're like, we haven't seen healing like this. Like 2 weeks out, my PT, Dr. Drew Courtney, who sees so many ACL tears, he was like, I haven't seen this before. I haven't seen, there's not a lot of laxity. It's pretty strong. Like I'm doing like, 75 pounds, like the quad machine for reps and other PT tests he's doing. And he's like, I'm just like, this is pretty wild progress. And I'm like, it could be the hyperbaric, it could be, the red light, but I'm like, it's probably the peptides.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
I think you hit it on the head too. Like I think the government has a huge part to play in this of like allowing this to go back into a clinical setting. Because like you want to have, as a physician, you want to be able to have that conversation with your patients. Like I've had patients come to me just in the residency setting asking me about peptides, and it's kind of like, I can't really talk to you about that
exactly.
here.
So that's a very frustrating fucking thing.
Yeah.
They really fuck over doctors. I'm like, doctors are great people. They're amazing. You know this game where you can't give somebody a bunch of lab tests. The insurance companies can go back to you and go, you just give a healthy person all these lab tests? Like, that's for what condition?
Yeah.
So you're
right.
You're forced to either do it out of the insurance model of healthcare, which I think is where we're moving towards for people that want to actually optimize their health.
Yeah.
Because there's these insane games people have to play where they go on Reddit and they find literal like scripts to tell their doctor to get certain lab tests.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're making people that already are dealing with tough lives, health issues, have to navigate this insane system.
Yeah.
I remember when I was young, like I was already into health. I remember going to my doctor and be like, I want like my testosterone checked.
Like, why?
And they're like, why this? And I just didn't know. So I just ended up fizzling out and I just never got the lab test.
For sure.
Because and from his point of view, he's going, if I order this at the time, probably like 22-year-old, a testosterone test, they're going to come back at me and go, why did you do this?
Yeah.
This isn't legal. You know what I mean? Like, for what condition does this man have low testosterone that you prescribed him a lab test for testosterone? So let's talk about some lab testing, because nowadays you can go get some lab testing done for a pretty affordable rate.
Right.
What do you like to have people measure? What do you think is worth it for people to go get done for the labs?
Yeah. So to your point too, like people going and getting like scripts to tell their doctors. I think doctors are starting to loosen up a little bit just because of, the space that has opened up with places like Function Health or Blokes or, which one's the one that you used before?
Yeah, Superpower.
All these ones are
Rhythm. Yeah, right. Rhythm is dope. Like, there's a lot of these places now where they're like, hey, like, give us $100, $200.
Yeah.
We'll run your labs and we'll help you interpret them.
Yeah, which is great because I think a lot of these people are also going and getting that done. And then when they have their doctor's visit, they're bringing it to them. And so doctors are now forced to kind of learn in that lens because, like I mentioned before, we learned just kind of generic labs in medical school under the lens of disease states and what's normal, and what's the normal reference range is the middle 95%. So you're taking
optimizing
2.5% on each side of abnormal, and you're calling this normal, when in reality only 12% of people in the United States are metabolically healthy. So it's like we're not learning the optimal ranges. So I think we're starting to push doctors in order to be more aware of that, the optimal space, rather than like, oh, you don't have clinically obvious disease right now. In terms of like specifics, you go to your doctor and you get a traditional checkup lab test. They're going to give you like a complete blood panel that tells you a little bit. They're not going to check your vitamin D, and they're not going to check any of your vitamins. They're going to check like an LDL cholesterol, which now we're starting to learn like, okay, yeah, it does give us some value, but not the full picture. And that's pretty much it. They might check a couple liver labs just to make sure that you're not dying actively.
Yeah, like they'll do a CBC. Dr. Abood on Huberman, he said something really interesting where he likes to look at the lymphocyte to monocyte ratio. Yeah. And that's something people can learn from their CBC. Like if you're young, you want your lymphocytes like pretty high, like 1,500 to 3,000. Yeah, I looked back at one of my labs, like, oh, cool. I'm like 2,600 or 2,500. And my monocytes was like 420, so like had a good ratio.
Good, so like a 4 or 5 to 1 ratio.
Yeah, it was like a rough, a little over 5 like ratio, and I was like, okay, that's like good. But you get fucked over if you have an old doctor that doesn't know this stuff and isn't into it. So you're kind of cooked. You go to your doctor, you have these labs, maybe they give you labs, and maybe you bring your own. They're not going to interpret them like a functional medicine doctor would, or someone who just is into this stuff. So you're going to be left going, hey, you're good, you're not dying, when you could optimize your health if you looked at their labs.
Right.
So yeah, what are some of those things that you might...
I would say tips wise, before you even go in, if you get a full lab panel, like from a Function Health or something, or from Blokes or from Superpower, I would input those into AI. I think this is a great way that AI can be of assistance. Now, people can go buck wild on it and become hypochondriacs because, they just go down so many rabbit holes. But you could word it as, hey, take a look at these labs. Here's a little bit about me. Look at these labs like a functional medicine doctor, and let's go over some things that might be actionable that I can take care of, and some questions that I should ask my primary care doctor whenever I go see him or her next, right?
100%.
So I think that's great, because I think
it's amazing, yeah.
We only have 6 to 12 minutes on average with our traditional doctors if you're going through like the health insurance space. So you kind of have to be prepared when you walk in there. Like, you don't need to be talking about how, walking your dog earlier and how like your family's doing, which unfortunately that's the case. The doctor, community doctor used to know everybody. Now they can't know anybody. But yeah, go prepared. In terms of labs that I would check specifically, like if you're not going through a third party and you want to ask your doctor for it, I'd definitely check a vitamin D. Optimal ranges, I'd probably go from like 50 to 80.
Yeah.
Even some people even go higher, but I think that's a generally safe way to go. Anything over like 25 or 30, they'll say is normal, and they won't ask you about it
A lot of the functional medicine doctors are out here, same thing. They go either 60 to 90 or 50 to 80. Yeah, you want to be somewhere in there.
And it's involved in so many things. We know that athletes with higher vitamin D levels actually tend to perform well. They're able to handle stress better. Vitamin D is a hormone, so it leads to an entire cascade of things. So if you're at a suboptimal vitamin D level, you're just not really teeing yourself up for success across the board. It's involved in like 3,000 processes in the body.
Yeah.
Magnesium's another one. Your primary care doctor will probably order a magnesium, but that's a plasma magnesium. And what a lot of people don't know is that 98% of magnesium in the body is stored in the red blood cell, not the plasma. So you're not even getting the full picture. So I'd probably get a red blood cell magnesium. Aim for like around 5 or 6, I think is kind of the optimal value. And omega-3 index is huge too. There's a study that Rhonda Patrick talks about a lot where, especially in standard American diet and everything, the average American person is averaging an omega-3 index of like 4%, which is like how saturated their blood cells are with omega-3s. 4% and below kind of has the same mortality outcomes as being a smoker.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, and that's such a low hanging fruit in order to correct. Like you either eat more fish, properly sourced, hopefully, or take supplements.
Yeah, I've been taking cod liver oil from a company called Rosita, zero affiliation whatsoever. Just with fish oil, you have to find one, in my opinion, if you can, that's like directly connected to a fishery.
Yeah.
And people are always like, oh, like Santa Cruz Paleo, they launch a fish oil. I'm like, maybe someday. I talked to a guy who ran a fishery. They don't have the scale that we would need, but like the best way to get it is for a fishery, goes to a factory, packaged in good
preferably
like amber
in like Alaska,
glass.
yeah.
And like it comes down to you. Like that's really the way to do it because you have these fish oils that sit on the shelves at a CVS or whatever for a year and they get oxidized. And Rhonda Patrick talks about that a lot. There's something called the Totox score of omega-3s, which you can like look up some brands that have been independently tested. So Nordic Naturals appears to be pretty good. I think one of the reasons is their sourcing is probably pretty good, but they're also so big now that that's like a benefit where they're like moving through product fast. So I'm like, that's a good thing. And
you want to get like the triglyceride form instead of the ethyl ester just because it doesn't oxidize as easy.
Yeah.
And probably put it in the fridge even though it doesn't say
I keep mine in the fridge.
Yeah.
And my omega-3, I got that lab done and it was great. And
you want it to be around, like ideal would be like 8%. It's pretty kind of difficult to get there. But anything above 5, I think is ideal,
And a lot of Americans, like we're not even going to talk about seed oils on this. It's such a controversial topic, but if you are eating seed oils at every single meal, that is going to throw off your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. I look at a lot of health stuff from the anthropological view of like, how did we evolve as human beings? And we were consuming a lot more omega-3s.
For sure.
Even in the ruminant animals back in the day, like there was probably more omega-3 fatty acids.
A lot less omega-6.
A lot less omega-6.
Even if you're not consuming a lot of omega-3s, the ratio was at least better because we weren't consuming a ton of omega-6s like we are now.
Yeah, a lot of Americans' diets, 100 to 1, omega-6 to omega-3. Like you're eating potato chips, then you're eating corn-fed beef if you're eating beef. You're not eating fish.
Yeah.
Your eggs are fed corn and soy, so they're higher in omega-6.
Yeah.
And I think people hear that and they go, oh, but omega-6 has a lot of health benefits. Yes, I know. I'm talking about balancing it. And like you're saying, like having enough of those omega-3s in your diet.
Yeah. Cod liver oil is a great source of, I think, natural vitamin D as well. And vitamin A, which is kind of not looked down on, but kind of we look past it a little bit. But vitamin A is really important for us, especially because we're living in like this unnatural environment with LED lights and, nobody's has their sleep corrected and nobody's going outside early in the morning. So your adrenals kind of get this just borderline fatigue. And so you're either producing too much cortisol and it's not tapering off at the end of the day, or you're producing not enough cortisol to get that spike in the morning and you kind of just feel wired and tired throughout the entire day.
Yeah.
So that vitamin A actually does help cultivate a good environment for the adrenals to produce cortisol too. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
A lot of the fat soluble vitamins I think we're not getting enough of. So when I take like a multivitamin, I just make sure it has like enough vitamin A, D, E, and K in it.
Yes.
Because those will help that entire environment.
Yeah, like K2 in a fat soluble form, I think it's just great. Like we make a vitamin D with K2 and we use extra virgin olive oil for that.
Oh, cool.
And like I still always tell people, like get in the sun. The sun is the best way to get vitamin D. I don't know, like Brian Johnson wearing the umbrella and stuff.
I saw you. That was awesome.
A little scared of the sun. And I love what he does, but I think he's just wrong about that.
I do too.
So other labs. So they get some of those checked, the omega-3 index.
Yeah.
What else?
I would say homocysteine is probably a big one too. So homocysteine kind of builds up when your body is in a state of inflammation. Mm-hmm. A lot of us are walking around with, like you said, like either kind of this chronic inflammatory state from things like omega-6s, ultra-processed food diets, whatever it may be. Or we have like methylation deficiencies, like for instance, like the whole MTHFR thing. I think it's a little bit overblown, but there are a lot of genes that feed into that methylation pathway, which is kind of how your body clears toxins. So if you have like an MTHFR mutation, which like I do, my wife does, my dad does, we all have 3 different ones, that can build up homocysteine and it's not converting to methionine, and therefore it's not kind of helping the whole clearing of toxins process. So it builds up in the body, it creates an inflammatory environment. And so homocysteine, you generally want it like below 8, really 4 or 5 or below is ideal. Once it starts getting up into like the 10s, 20s even, like that raises some red flags that there's some other things going on. And I think most of the time you can fix that with simple methylated B vitamin supplementation. A high sensitivity CRP kind of goes in that same pathway. It's more targeted towards cardiovascular inflammation. So you want to get the high sensitivity one, because if you just get the regular one that like most doctors order, which it is cheaper, it'll just tell you if it's like greater than 3 or 3 and below.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you want that to be like 1 or less, ideally. Like that's optimal. 2.
My HSCRP was super low on my last labs, which I was stoked on.
That's
because,
amazing.
Yeah, like my functional medicine doc is like, okay, like when we're looking at heart health, like this is a key marker.
Yeah.
And it's just not as simple as, hey, this person has high LDL. That's all we've found in lab tests. Like you're going to get a heart attack. Like what everybody in the know is saying about the current research is there's other biomarkers that can lead to this environment where you have like heart issues. So HSCRP, great biomarker. Great
biomarker. In terms of heart too, we look at ApoB is a big one. So if you think of cholesterol, you think of LDL cholesterol being the bad cholesterol, right? When you get an LDL, that kind of just tells you the volume of LDL that's floating around your blood. That's a dumbed down way of saying it, but that's how I like to think about it. ApoB is the actual amount of particles that are flowing through the blood. LDL is attached to those ApoB particles. So I want to know how many particles are able to stick to the sides of your arteries, right? Because that makes more sense from a risk standpoint of cardiovascular disease. So an ApoB, typically below 100, ideally below 80 is what we want to look at. That's becoming like the new LDL. And I honestly think that there's better info on ApoB being a marker of overall risk for heart attack. LP little a, lipoprotein little a, is a huge genetic one. So you only have to take this one time in your life. If it comes back strikingly high, I mean, I don't know what the exact range is, but I actually trust the reference range on this one because not many people test it. But if that comes back high, especially like in the thousands, that's basically a red flag of saying like, okay, you need to start paying a lot more attention to these values like ApoB and LDL more than the average person. The average person might say, okay, I'll start eating an anti-inflammatory diet. Let's see if I can bring it down. This person who has that genetic risk factor, it's like, okay, we might want to be quicker to jump on something like a medication. Not necessarily a statin. I don't agree with throwing statins at everything like most cardiologists do. But, starting with maybe red yeast rice or some sort of like supplement. Yeah. Or going to like a PCSK9 inhibitor or a ezetimibe. Like there's other medications that I think are ideal. What I see people doing wrong is targeting their diet for that cholesterol lab, and they're just eating like mice just to try to satisfy that cholesterol lab. And my thing is like, I think you should be eating a whole food, higher protein diet in order to maintain muscle mass and function. And if your LDL and ApoB is still high, then we can talk about medications. I try not to go too far on one side of saying like every single medication is demonic or, let's only medicate and not think about the root cause or supplementation. I do think there is that conversation to be had where like if there's enough risk there and you're doing everything else right through diet, don't stop the diet part just to try to treat that one number. Sure. We can use even low doses of certain medications that have very little side effects, if not none, to kind of handle that if we want to. And so the future of heart health is going to be sort of this like heart passport thing that we're discussing of like multiple biomarkers leading to how is your heart health. And I guess it's just frustrating because like,
my mom, like if she goes to the doctor, they're gonna be like, your LDL's high, get on a statin.
Yeah.
And we're still at that point, and I think it's doing a lot of people completely wrong. And it's gonna be looked back on as, oh, like we really fucked up. And like actually you're gonna see some, New York Times health article because they're all woke and they like, like they only put out what's like, standard medical. But you're gonna see this article in 3 to 5 years where it's like, oh, why we were sort of wrong about how we interpreted heart health. And now the future is this like heart passport thing. Like, but the literature's there. Like I was reading a study that elevated HbA1c.
Right.
It was a higher risk factor than elevated LDL for heart attack.
For sure.
And,
for sure.
Yeah. But it's like that's not known. Like it's not like, hey, I want to look into my heart health. Okay, let's get your HbA1c. Let's get HSCRP. Let's look at your inflammation.
Yeah.
Even in the future, let's look at mitochondrial health. But that's going to be the future of medicine. It's already pretty accessible to people, like you're saying. It's just not being communicated by sort of the mainstream establishment.
Yeah.
That's frustrating as fuck. It's really annoying, actually.
I saw something the other day, which I thought was really interesting. It was a tweet that said, if you want to figure out if your doctor is thinking in a nuanced way, like more of the functional medicine way, now, granted, nobody wants either of these disease states, but you ask them which disease state they would rather have if they were going to have one, either HIV or diabetes. And the correct answer there is you would rather have HIV than diabetes because it's much more treatable and there's actually less negative outcomes now. Like whereas diabetes leads to so many terrible things like Alzheimer's, dementia, heart disease.
Yeah.
I mean, limb amputations, literally anything. I mean, chronic bed sores, which I see all the time. So, yeah, I mean, I think focusing on insulin sensitivity is probably one that we haven't prioritized as much. Going back to the lab values, I think looking at, hemoglobin A1C, a lot of doctors will look at that just to see like, do you currently have diabetes?
Over 5 point, what is it?
6.7 or 6.5. I can't remember the exact lab.
At some level you have diabetes.
Right. You have
pre-diabetes. At some level you're pre-diabetes and some level you're full on diabetic.
Right. But that won't show up until like you're kind of have already passed that point. So what HbA1c is measuring is the amount of glucose circulating in your blood for the last 3 months. So it's kind of a snapshot of 3 months. But even a decade before that, you'll start seeing elevations in things like your fasting insulin. That's probably the first one that comes up, and maybe my favorite, most important lab, because if your fasting insulin is elevated, that's like your first sign that your body is telling you that, hey, there's an environment that's not natural here, and we need to start correcting it with diet and exercise and lifestyle. Going alongside of that, your fasting glucose, that's an easy one that most labs do, most doctors do, even in the traditional space, and I think that doesn't even go off as a red flag until it's like 110 or 114, and I would really try to get that less than 90.
Yeah.
So that fasting glucose and fasting insulin are going to show up as abnormal 5 to 10 years before the hemoglobin A1C. But yet we're waiting for that to go up and being like, oh shit, you have diabetes. And we're telling patients that diabetes is not reversible, which is not the case. Like that's what we're actually taught in medical school, or at least in the traditional system. Hopefully they're not teaching that anymore. But like diabetes used to be like, okay, you have it for the rest of your life now. There's no way we're going back. Which that's not true. I've seen tons of people reverse their diabetes through a ketogenic diet or just low carb diet and, just some modest lifestyle choices.
Yeah. I want to go back actually now and sort of touch on some stem cell stuff because I'm curious, where do you see this sort of stem cell industry headed? Where is it at right now? Like give us a snapshot of where stem cells are at right now. What are they being used for? And then where do you think it's headed and some of the potential things we might see with them?
I think we're still a little bit further behind in the stem cell space than we probably are in peptides, just because it's not what the masses are talking about or begging the government for, right? Like the peptides things, it's like we're kind of confronted with this issue because everybody and their mom wants to use peptides. Stem cells are a little bit less available. We're starting to release some of the regulations around it. Like I know Florida last July allowed placental stem cells to be used, even IV, I think, and people are finding benefit in that. We don't have a ton of like large scale studies, which I think is a hindrance in terms of like FDA approval and getting, the government wants a lot of data, and that's part of the reason with peptides being so held back. I'm more on the side of like medical freedom. I think that if you give the pros, cons, and the unknowns to a patient, then they should be able to at least have most of the decision making in terms of like what they want to do with their life and their health. Like I'm very on that side. I don't think we should keep modalities from patients, especially ones that need it.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I'm excited about the stem cell space personally. Like I've heard a ton of anecdotal stories, but then again, like you don't get that in the traditional academic space. So I haven't had a lot of clinical experience with it. I hope they start to release their grip on it a little bit. The reason why people are going to places like Tijuana or like the Bahamas is because in the United States, you can't manipulate tissue. I think they're classifying stem cells as tissue. And so basically you can go to those countries, they can put your stem cells from like your subcutaneous fat into a petri dish. They can cultivate that to 10,000 times the amount that you would normally get and then pump it back into you.
Interesting.
Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I mean, that's up to you. I think that it's reasonable if you're trying to repair a tendon, right, to get more stem cells into that area. So I hope we start to get a little bit more relaxed so that we can start doing some experimental things like that, as long as we're, telling the patients like this is what's going on and you're taking a little bit of a risk, but here's the benefit that, may pay off on the back end.
For sure. Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm like, you hear like stem cells and you're like, oh, like they're just going to regenerate anything, but it doesn't really work like that.
No.
Also, like, it's like, getting PRP and some bone marrow aspirate concentrate, which has some stem cells in it, basically, like it's a bitch. Like it's a thing. Like I gotta go in. It's like it's not a full surgery,
right?
But like you're out for a few days. Like you gotta, it's not like you get them injected and like you're back running around in like a week.
Yeah, I was talking to a really well-known physician about this the other day too, because I think what's gonna be big, maybe even as big or bigger than stem cells, is exosomes. Have you been hearing about this?
Yeah, I have.
So exosomes are really interesting because they're not actually putting biologics in you. So like stem cells, if you're getting placental stem cells, you're getting it from literally another human being.
Yeah.
Right. So there could be some reactions that go along with that. Some people are worried about, getting stem cells from, somebody who's had multiple COVID vaccines and they might not have had a COVID vaccine. So there's a little controversy around that.
Yeah.
And I think exosomes are interesting because you're literally just delivering the message that that you would want a stem cell to deliver without any of the cell or biologics that go along with it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they're probably just as expensive, if not a little bit more. But to me, it's a cleaner form of kind of getting that message across than just pumping in a bunch of stem cells from somebody, especially from somebody else.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might need to go to Ways to Well. I know they're doing some exosome stuff out there. I want to get into some supplements. So what are some supplements that you take that you're a big fan of? Let's just dive in like that.
Yeah. Okay. So like I'll start with the basics. I'm a big fan of a multivitamin. I think that just is kind of like your insurance policy. It covers all the bases. You'll have doctors telling you that it's expensive urine, but now we have studies like the Cosmos trial that shows that even taking a multivitamin later in life can actually slow down cognitive aging. So I'm a big fan of taking a multivitamin, even if it's one pill a day and it's just kind of like your basics.
Yeah.
Vitamin D, I take probably 4,000 or 5,000 units a day.
Yeah,
with
same.
With K2. You want to shuttle. Vitamin D basically deals with calcium mobilization and storage, and you want to take K2 with it so that it shuttles it into bone rather than your arteries.
Yeah.
You don't want plaque buildup in your arteries. I think that's a little more theoretical, but the risk is there, so I take it with K2. Magnesium, there's tons of forms of that. I'm sure you take.
Yeah, I take glycinate just every evening. Yeah, I mean, like, it's really interesting putting all my food into Chronometer or something like that. I still will fall short of magnesium.
Yeah.
And it's like, I eat really well. I eat magnesium-rich foods, and like you still are a little short of magnesium. So I'm like, I just think, people ask me what supplement should I take. I'm like, for almost everybody, magnesium.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like just take some magnesium glycinate.
It's hard to overdo.
It's hard to overdo. It's affordable. The way we evolved as well, like our ancestors evolved drinking from streams, eating, food and getting like soil, basically like more nutrient-rich soil, probably eating some organs. There was just more magnesium. And I think we sort of evolved like that for hundreds of thousands of years. And now our food is more deficient in magnesium. We're not getting magnesium in our drinking water for the most part. So supplementing with some magnesium glycinate.
Have you gone down the rabbit hole of we might be living in a lithium deficiency as well?
No.
Because of the drinking water thing? So that's pretty cool. I'm not saying that everybody needs to go and take lithium, and people's ears kind of perk up because we think of lithium as in terms of like antipsychotic medications at, dosages of like 600 to 2,000 milligrams, right? What I'm talking about is like lithium orotate, which is the supplemental version, which you can take anywhere between like 1 and 5 milligrams. Some people can take it up to 20. Very few side effects. Talk to your doctor first, obviously. But basically we used to drink water from groundwater, right? We would get it from soil, and there was actually trace levels of lithium in the soil. And what we know that lithium does is that it balances out mood. It's a mood stabilizer. It's even like a little bit of a cognitive enhancer. We're starting to realize there's research being done in people with low lithium levels and developing Alzheimer's disease. We're even doing autopsies on people's brains with Alzheimer's, and we're seeing that the lithium is actually bound up in these cal protein tangles that we see in Alzheimer's patients. So it's playing a really interesting role. And the theory is that, now we're either drinking, purified water from the city through tap, which I hope people never do, or we're doing like reverse osmosis, which strips everything. And you're not getting lithium. And when you put, when some people will put like electrolytes back in the water, it's not going to have lithium in it.
Yeah.
So I've been taking like a really low dose of lithium, like I think 2 or 4 milligrams of lithium every day.
So we're all deficient in lithium, and this is why people are dumb, retarded, and angry.
There are some studies showing that there's a really interesting study. It's overseas. I can't remember what country it was in, but it was looking at different areas and comparing the amount of lithium in the tap water, and there were considerably higher rates of homicide and aggressive crimes in the places that had lower lithium in the tap water.
Interesting.
Right. So there's a couple of those studies, I believe. So the mechanism's there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say everybody go and take lithium, but it's one that I think we'll start learning more about.
Should we make an electrolyte with a little lithium in there?
Maybe so.
That could be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of other ones that I'm taking, omega-3 is obviously a big one. I actually just switched to cod liver oil as well. I've been liking it. You have to take more cod liver oil to get the same omega-3.
You gotta take more. Luckily, I eat a decent amount of fish. I'm not so scared of fish. A lot of people get really afraid of it. They say there's so many parasites in fish, the mercury. When I've really looked deep into the data, which is not like biased data, it's just looking at people eating a bunch of tuna. It's like, you'd have to eat a lot of tuna. You would kind of know you're approaching that risk of a mercury. And then the parasite thing, while there can be parasites in fish, it's not illogical to say that. It's just not it's not there. Talking to functional medicine doctors who see people who eat a lot of fish, they're not really seeing like these rampant gut parasites in these folks. So, yeah, do you like eating fish?
I love eating. My wife and I just started cooking salmon a lot more. We love eating salmon. And I agree. I'm not as worried about it as a lot of people. I think the parasite thing is real, but overblown, and it gets a lot of views on social media to talk about parasites.
Parasite cleanses and all that stuff.
Everybody wants one big bad wolf. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The reason for all their problems.
And then if you talk to legit functional medicine doctors, they'll be like, yeah, we can run a GI map and look in your gut and see if you have any parasites. And there are legit parasite cleanses, but they're usually not some fucking tea you're going to buy that's going to, you're going to be shitting out worms. That's very, very, very rare.
Yeah. I've done those too. I didn't shit out worms, and I took a parasite test and there were none in there. I was kind of disappointed.
Dr. Justin was telling us, he was like, a lot of what that is people will sell these really intense parasite cleanses, and people actually shed a lining of their gut basically, and it looks like worms, and people think that it's worms. Mm-hmm. And that you'll get these reviews being like, yeah, I was shitting out worms. And he's actually, unfortunately, he's treated people that come to him after doing one of those, and they have basically a damaged gut lining.
Right.
When they could have just done it with a functional medicine doc, which I get, it's expensive, it's a bitch. But usually for a lot of people, it's going to be, some oregano, some olive leaf, some wormwood, some compounds like that. And that's going to act as, a natural antifungal, antibacterial, get rid of some of those parasites in there, and then you can kind of build the gut back up.
Also, you ask somebody too, why they're taking a parasite cleanse, and it's like, well, I'm having brain fog and I can't sleep at night, and I have gut issues, and my skin is bad, and it's like, yeah, those can all be related to a parasite, but they're like, well, I don't really get that much sleep because I doom scroll, and I don't know when I wake up. I wake up at a different time every morning, and I hate my job, and I never get out of bed, or I never get outside.
Yeah.
And I eat chips all day long and ultra processed food, and it's like, I don't think a parasite's your problem. I think you got 12 other problems that, even if you did have a parasite, could be more actionable than the parasite itself.
100%, dude. I mean, this is a weird esoteric thing or out there thing, but I'm trying to get through this book on mitochondrial health, and this guy wrote it, and in the beginning of the book, he says, after researching the mitochondria for 30 years, it turned him from somebody who was like an atheist to fully believing in God, because he's
Okay.
like, the organization here, like it doesn't make. He like wrote this caveat in the book of like I truly believe in like organization of the universe.
It was like a case for Christ for mitochondria.
Yeah, yes, it really was. And like, and just looking at some of the diagrams in there and some of the explanations of like the mitochondrial transport chain, it's above like my level of understanding, honestly. But like seeing that we have like a literal power plant in each of our cells fully has made me do more of, I don't like give a fuck what people call it, but like I've talked about it before, like I'll like smile in the mirror, like when I'm letting my shower heat up. I'll do these things of like tapping myself and like saying like my cells are happy and healthy. Like, and like, I don't give a fuck that it's weird, because like, and I just like focus more effort lately, especially in the last like couple months, on like just doing things that like make me really stoked, you know, been a bit tough on my knee, but that actually like has helped me in a way, like realize like what's important in many ways. Because now I'm starting to think like the cells have this, and like when you look at like a lot of this research on mitochondrial health being like the next frontier of medicine, where like heart health might be mitochondrial health, your brain health and Alzheimer's later in life might be a mitochondrial issue. And I think like what you're saying, when a lot of people hate their job, they don't, you know, they don't like what they're doing, they're not getting enough sleep. I think you can get into this like downward spiral and like sort of convince your cells to like not do their job.
For sure.
And I know that's out there, but
I don't think it's out there, because like we have tons of studies on like the placebo effect, right? Like I can give you a sugar pill and say it's a blood pressure medication, and if I convince you well enough, your blood pressure is probably going to drop.
Yep.
So like your mind is really powerful. We know that with like, you know, Wim Hof. Like Wim Hof would do studies where, you know, he would inject himself with E. coli and basically like meditate it away, right? And not have any. And then they said he was a one-off, and so he trained all these Harvard, I think it was Harvard or Princeton students to do the exact same thing, and only 1 out of 20 of them had any symptoms, and it was like a cough. So it's like there are things out there that we're not looking for from a medical perspective that can influence your physiology that the brain has total control over. Yeah. But we just don't, you know? Yeah. We just don't, or at least we just don't even prioritize it on a daily basis.
We can't like quantify it and put it into like a pill or into like a standard recommendation for somebody. But like that shit does change your health. I mean, we've had Dr. Keneally in here, who is a cancer researcher. She treats people. And like we were kind of surprised. Like Keneally's like out there is what you would what like normal society would refer to as out there. Like she'll talk in depth about science of cancer, and like she's extremely intelligent, but she'll also talk about a lot of the stuff that's considered like out there. Right. And I think she's coming at it from a point of view of like, no, like how you structure your life, how happy you are every day, lower stress and all that. Like it isn't something of like, oh yeah, that like helps. It's like, no, that is the thing. Right. And so, and then these things combine with each other, because I truly feel like a lot of people who are upset in life, like they're having this issue, that issue. I do sort of know, I'm like, if I could send this person to a functional medicine doctor, run all of their labs in depth and get them on a really good protocol, they would feel completely different as a human being. Like people sort of think that they have these like emotional issues oftentimes, but it's like, no, like you're saying, like your cortisol is extremely low in the morning. So you feel just a lack of like emotion overall. And it's hard to get stoked on life because you're not having that cascade of like norepinephrine and adrenaline and all this stuff in the morning. And then at night, you're on your phone, you're looking at stuff that your brain doesn't really like. And so your cortisol is rising, and now you're not getting the sleep. And so it's like the very fabric of who you are as a human being. It's like this mixture of like, yeah, sure, there's personality, there's like uniqueness to us, but it's like you kind of are just like your neurochemistry, your gut, your hormones, like all blended into one. So yeah, pretty crazy.
It blows my mind too that people don't take that extra step to go and check under the hood every now and then. Like I think some people just don't want to know what's there, right? Like some people don't want to go and get cancer screenings because they don't, it'd almost be better for them not to know. Yeah. It's a stress thing. But I mean, when I see some of my friends that will gladly go and spend $250 on one meal on a Friday, but they won't spend $350.
No idea what their labs are. Yeah.
Understanding like what their entire physiology is made up of. Yeah. Ever. It just blows my mind. Like the one thing that you're walking around with and that you pretty much take with you on a daily basis, and you're not going to check under the hood there, but you'll go and get new tires on your car every 6 months.
For sure. It's insane. So people can go there's like MyQuest Direct. You can look that up and you can like order labs. They're going to be near you in the United States. We're going to tell you guys a few ways to get them done because like, oh yeah, all these lab testing companies and like all that stuff's great. But we're going to tell you like multiple ways you can get it done. MyQuest Direct is really interesting, but you're not going to have that personalized interpretation by a doctor or like a team. But if you're trying to do something really affordable, you can go MyQuest Direct, get a few labs. You'll see exactly when you add them to cart, like which ones are which amount of money.
Yep.
Vitamin D is going to be really affordable. Omega-3 index is going to be a bit more expensive. So maybe you go like and you look at the magnesium test, see how much that is. Maybe throw in the CRP and HbA1c. Like get what you can. Everyone's interested in their testosterone. If you get testosterone, also get your SHBG and free test.
Yep.
Measured in your estrogen, like get a whole hormone panel.
Right.
That's oftentimes a little expensive, usually a couple $100.
Yeah.
Go to
a thyroid panel probably too.
Thyroid panel is really good.
Earlier. Yeah.
Go to the lab. You'll check out right there and you'll be able to click a lab that's near you. You show up there, you pick a time through the thing, you get your blood drawn, and the results are in your portal soon. Now you can throw those into AI and start to use intelligent prompting to get some results there. And then there are other companies like Blokes is one that I'm a fan of. Rhythm is one that I'm a fan of. Superpower, Function. Like, I don't really care where people go. It's all similar stuff.
I agree. And I think this is, what you were talking about, why the health insurance model kind of messes up a lot of things. Just the perception of how all of this works was messed up in my mind. So like, for instance, I don't even have health insurance anymore. I don't agree with it. I was offered it through my program. My wife and I do not have health insurance. We just do crowdfunding. But when I did have health insurance last year, I went to my primary doctor and I wanted to get like a lab panel of just hormones run. So he got like, estrogen, I think it was 5 labs, estrogen, not progesterone, testosterone, free test, sex hormone binding globulin, and maybe like DHEA or something. I went and got all those 5 labs drawn. I got hit with a bill for like $98, and then I saw that they had charged insurance $1,500, and I paid $98. So like the average person is thinking like, thank God I have insurance, right? Yeah. I went on MyQuest and put all 5 of those in for cash pay, and it was $67. So it's like I ended up paying more, and I was just deceived because that's what all of these doctors' offices or hospitals have to charge insurance in order to get back that amount of money in order to stay open. That's the crazy part, is that like these offices or surgery centers or whatever have to bill insurance at astronomical prices just to get back what they really need whenever they could actually charge cash 10 times less. Yeah.
It's insane. It really is crazy. We're going to get into more rapid fire questions about sort of your lifestyle, like what you do for your health. First, do you take any peptides? Have you tried any peptides?
I have. I've tried Sermorelin. When I was doing 75 hard, I did Sermorelin, and that actually helped a lot as a growth hormone secretagogue. So that helped a lot with
you get like really good sleep on it.
I did. I actually didn't get as good of sleep as a lot of people do. It actually messed with my sleep a little bit. So I don't take that anymore. I've done BPC 157, TB 500. I was actually doing that because I have like medial epicondylitis or golfer's elbow. Didn't get a ton of results with that. I know it differs from person to person, so I'm not writing it off. I did get great sleep scores for about 2 weeks straight while I was taking it, so I don't know if it just created more of an anti-inflammatory environment.
What I've heard from certain doctors, and I won't out their names, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about, is basically to do like huge dosages of BPC. Like I was like, back when I was doing it back in the day, I'd be like, like 500 micrograms.
Yeah.
And like I learned like, no, like you can push like multiple milligrams in there.
Yeah, I've heard up to like 5 milligrams. I wouldn't say everybody go do that. I was doing 500 micrograms too, which is probably why I didn't.
Yeah. And it's like, it's interesting because it's like, I don't know like how my knee would be healing without BPC and TB 500 and these things. Like I don't know if it'd be the exact same. I don't know, but like the theoretical thing of like, well, you need like blood flow to these ligaments and tendons, and these stimulate angiogenesis. So stuff like that, when it's easy and affordable, and I'm happy with the source of it, I'm like, I'm ripping it. Why not?
I've tried thymosin alpha 1 too.
Nice.
I like that. I actually really like that one, especially for because I had all those immune issues before I went into medical school, getting sick all the time. I haven't gotten sick since. Didn't get sick while I was taking it. I don't know if that's placebo or not, but I really like it. And there's actually like some pretty good data surrounding that one.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of data surrounding like BPC 157, but there's a ton of people that have used it and had amazing results. So, and it doesn't seem like there's a ton of risk there. So I think that, we also fall into this trap too of saying like there's no data. but a lack of data is also not anti-data. There's not data to suggest that it does not work.
Yeah.
We just don't have data to suggest that maybe it does work. So I think that maybe there's a little bit of a balance that we have to go with there. GHK copper, I've used that like topically on my face. Like, I don't really do much for skincare or anything, but I tried it.
I like it. You know, I do that. Then red light, like there's some interesting kind of evidence of like, you know, basically putting copper GHK-Cu on.
Yeah, the blue and the red.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. But like, you know, why not? Diet wise, like what's an average day of eating for you?
Nowadays I'm intermittent fasting most of the time. I'll wake up and just drink like black coffee in the morning. I just go back and forth. I think it's good for like metabolic flexibility to just be able to adapt to different diets.
Yeah.
I've done the carnivore diet in the past. Actually, when I was in medical school and I was kind of going down this whole rabbit hole of like, okay, I'm not being lied to, but are we just not thinking correctly in the medical system, or just we need to be thinking about other things? I did the carnivore diet because I heard like Paul Saladino was doing it. I didn't think anybody could survive on just meat. So I just ate like meat and blueberries for like 3 months and I felt amazing. And I couldn't get sunburn for some reason and I didn't have dandruff anymore. And I don't think it's sustainable and I don't recommend it to people.
It's an amazing reset. When people ask me about carnivore or even keto, if they're like a younger, like healthy person, like I'll be like, someone yesterday was like, oh, I'm going to do like a keto kind of carnivore thing. I'm like, how long? Like 2 weeks. I'm like, that sounds like a smart idea.
Yeah.
If somebody tells me they're going to do that for the rest of their life, we're seeing Saladino and other people just add in, you know, foods. I mean, I've been talking about how I eat some vegetables forever, which you'd be surprised as a doctor that I get a lot of pushback on from that carnivore keto.
I get a lot of pushback on it. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not structuring my plate around vegetables. I'm structuring, you know, my plate around animal sources of protein, high quality dairy, you know, pasture raised eggs, you know, and like foods like that, you know, and then like, like good carbohydrate sources for me are critical. It just never made sense for me. Like Saladino talks a lot about a species appropriate diet, but studying medical anthropology like I did, I'm like, well, these people were eating a lot of sweet potatoes and they would eat fiber. Like you can see studies on our ancestors where they consume fiber.
Yeah.
And then talking to the functional medicine doctors where they're like, look at what happens when I put somebody who has really bad, not bad gut bacteria, but low beneficial bacteria. When I give them some fiber, it feeds the gut and they get better immune system, better gut health. And so you're like, okay, so I've always included some veggies.
I was in the camp that I was trying to hold on as long as I possibly could to say that fiber is not as good as we thought that it was.
I think if your gut is cooked, you might not want to do fiber for a bit. You might want to so that's like what I'm learning is like, for some people, like we have chicory root inulin in our protein bar, and there's amazing studies on chicory root inulin. Just simply giving a large amount of people chicory root inulin, beneficial gut bacteria species proliferate, and they experience really good results. But there are going to be some people that have bad gut bacteria, and their gut is not healthy. And I agree, when you give those people fiber, it's kind of a good litmus test in a way. Like if you eat fiber and your body can't deal with it, you might want to go get a GI map test and figure out why the fuck is that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think going back to the carnivore thing too, I think what the carnivore diet does really well, or just any restrictive diet in that aspect, is just being like the ultimate elimination diet ever. Because if you're eating a bunch of ultra processed foods and a bunch of things that we didn't eat 50, 100 years ago, you're putting your body in this like odd, unnatural state, probably going to be inflammatory, and you actually might interact with foods that you normally wouldn't be, you know, sensitive to in a sensitive way.
Yes.
So I think if you do like a 30-day at least true elimination diet, Institute for Functional Medicine has a really good one that we actually put patients on at the VA. We would take one patient at a time, put them in this inpatient metabolic rehab program, teach them how to cook, and then have them do a full 30-day elimination diet. And we were eliminating things like, you know, most starchy carbs, any ultra processed food, added sugar. But we would also maybe get rid of like some people are sensitive to eggs. I think eggs are amazing, but some people do get a sensitivity to eggs. So we would do that for a little bit. We would get rid of dairy for a little bit because that can be a point of sensitivity. We would get rid of soy and get rid of gluten, and we do that for 30 days. And the point is not to get rid of all those things forever, but after 30 days, your gut kind of resets, and then you add on one thing at a time. So we add back in dairy at maybe even higher, you know, dosages than we would do before. if they don't react to it in any way, then sure, you can keep dairy. Then we add in gluten. And then like, let's just say you start getting terrible skincare and you feel like shit and you're not sleeping well. Well, then gluten's probably a problem. We're going to get rid of that. And then you just keep going down the list. And I think if somebody has the time and resources to be able to do that, that can play out over your life in a way that is like unimaginable.
Yeah.
Like if you figure out what foods are actually cultivating a good environment in your body.
Yes, because then you know, like, to be able to go back to that, you know, and like for me, like, like a couple weeks ago, I said whatever, like my health was fucked up because my knee and this and that, and like lack of sleep, this thing. So I'm like, I know what to go back to. I know which foods like are really extremely nourishing for me. Like for me, it's like some high quality grass fed steak, like some sweet potatoes my body does really well with, and like I'm able to like go back to that, some bone broth, like, and then I'm able to, you know, because my gut is like adaptable now, I'm able to eat a more wide variety of foods. And there's certain things for me, like I've learned through doing elimination diets, like you're saying, like I don't do well with gluten, you know, like I could have a piece of sourdough here and there when I'm good, but like if I'm like every day, like gluten, my body doesn't like it.
Same.
And you learn these things. And I think one of the, you know, like we hear this term plant defense chemicals a lot. And I unfortunately think it has scared people away from foods like potatoes, beans, veggies. What do you think about the whole plant defense chemical argument?
Yeah, I subscribe to that for a little bit too, but I really think that it's the same thing of like, if you take things out of the food matrix and look at them individually, you can make a case for so many things being negative. Like, for instance, fructose. You could make the case that fructose is absolutely terrible for you, but then are you going to say blueberries are awful for you and nobody should eat blueberries? Like, no, probably not. I think blueberries are probably the greatest fruit of all time.
Yeah.
So I think people can be sensitive to certain plants because of that. Like, yeah, plants do produce chemicals in order not to be eaten in the wild, but we know that some plants can be eaten. I guess some in terms of percentage wise can be eaten and are very nutritious for us. And if you can tolerate that, and I think it's better. But I wouldn't put a ton of weight around that because that's just looking at it outside of the entire food matrix itself. We just know that like if you eat a whole food, you're getting so many different things other than like, what's the main one like that Paul Saladino uses? Oxalates and phthalates, or not phthalates, but yeah.
And it's like cooking these foods reduces it. Like we've sort of known this for a long time, and it's like, you know, if like in traditional diets, like when they cook beans, for example, they soak them, and then they cook them, and like that is going to vastly reduce the amount of lectins, and so
lectins is an interesting one. I know he loves to cite the study about you can actually radio trace lectins going from the vagus nerve from the gut up to like dopaminergic neurons and like, you know, storing in part basically the cells that are pathologic in Parkinson's. So that's really interesting. I don't eat a ton of beans anyways. I just don't really enjoy it. Yeah. So I stay away from that personally. I haven't seen a ton of data to like back myself up on that, but I do stay away from them for the most part.
Yeah. And like, that's the thing. Like with a lot of like salads and like raw greens, like I don't really eat those. It's just like I'm getting my nutrients elsewhere. But
I agree with you. Every time I'm sick, I eat a grass-fed steak, and I swear it makes me feel better every single time.
When you're getting a lot of B vitamins, a lot of protein. People joke that I say a grass-fed steak can heal everything, and it kind of can. Yeah, it kind of actually can.
I'm with you.
What else should we touch on? So sleep routine for you.
I want to go back too. I think I left out a couple of supplements that we should probably talk about because I know. You have a supplement line too. Do you do N-acetylcysteine?
Huge fan of N-acetylcysteine. We have N-acetylcysteine with alpha-lipoic acid.
Yeah.
And we formulated the supplement because I took NAC, read all the research on NAC, huge fan of it. And then when you combine it with alpha-lipoic acid, you're going to get some more blood sugar stabilization, some mitochondrial benefits. And then we want to make it relatively potent. The dose I wanted to go for was 500 to 300. And so most functional medicine doctors I've talked to, they like taking about 1 gram of NAC per day. So I'm like 2 of those for most people. Great place to start. I know people like Huberman. He takes like a lot of NAC when he gets like a stuffy nose. He's a pretty big dude. So like, you know, you could probably handle more NAC. You shouldn't be just like popping 3 grams if you're just like, you know, whatever. But I think it's one of the best supplements I've ever found to sort of adapt to modern life. If that makes sense. It's like our livers are a bit stressed, you know, and so like NAC, a huge fan of it.
Yeah, because you know it started out as actually a medication for aspirin overdose. Like that's the main reason for it. And it's weird because NAC is a little bit of an exception. It's actually not supposed to be available as a supplement. It was pushback from the public to the FDA that made them just like kind of look past it. Because you're not supposed to have anything on medication that you can sell over the counter as a supplement too. So it's this weird exception because of that aspirin overdose thing. But yeah, it's great for the liver. It's a precursor to glutathione, which is like the master antioxidant of the body. So it's a good way to get glutathione in without having to pay for super expensive liposomal glutathione or injecting it. The first time I'd ever heard of it, my buddy told me about NAC because I had chronic sinus problems too. When I was dealing with all the strep stuff, I also had such bad sinus problems that I was convinced to get sinus surgery. That didn't help, all this bad stuff.
Yeah.
So I had chronic sinusitis, and my buddy told me about it for like, loosening mucus.
Yeah.
So I started taking 900 milligrams a day and didn't have any sinus problems really. I don't take it all the time now. But the reason why he was taking it is because he had, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but basically when you get stressed, you start kind of pulling out your own hair. Like that's like a tick, basically. I can't remember. But he basically would do that. He'd pull out his own eyebrows while he was studying, just not even noticing it, pull out his own hair. And he started taking it because he heard that people that start it like decreases OCD symptoms.
Yes,
and he just like completely went away. Like all of his hair grew back. He never does it anymore.
Yeah, no, it's really good for a lot of like mental issues, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, it is a powerful mucolytic. So like, yeah, people who get stuffy nose. I just did a post on allergies. I'm like, whenever anybody's like, "Yo, I have these allergies," I'm like, "Dude, take NAC, quercetin, some local raw honey, great. Like, because these things."
Quercetin is like a natural
antihistamine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a natural Zyrtec.
And these things they don't have the negative potential health effects of stuff like Zyrtec, which like, you see like implicated in possible Alzheimer's with some of those like Gen 1 allergy medications. And so you're like, this thing is something that people without allergy issues are going to take because it has all these benefits, glutathione, all this. So it's like a lot of the supplements like are just
saffron.
amazing.
I just started taking saffron recently.
Yeah, saffron has amazing studies.
It's amazing for like mood regulation. There's even some studies comparing it to traditional SSRIs, which is wild. There's a little bit of I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart. There's a little bit of a conspiracy around saffron though. I think all of the saffron that is commercially available comes out of Iran. And all of this, I think like 99% of the studies also come out of Iran. So I don't know if there's something there, but
a lot of that stuff it's a bitch to fund and complete a study. So like if you create a financial interest of like, hey, we produce saffron, can we study to see if this stuff really does work for depression? Then it does. It's like it still works
without the side effects.
Yes,
like if it can compare to an SSRI without the negative side effects, like libido and all of those other things, and it's even in the same ballpark, like that's amazing.
Oh, dude! I mean, there's that study that of, comparing like hard exercise to SSRIs, and it was as good or better, and very well done study. And the fact that people that go on SSRIs aren't told that and like explain that by their doctor, like I think it's criminal. Like I think
even as an adjuvant, like go on an SSRI. Like if you absolutely need it, like sure, that's fine. I think we push 90% of people. That we pushed to SSRIs was too early. But yeah, like if you're going on an SSRI, let's start you on exercise too. So at least maybe if you ever want to get off of an SSRI, you have that exercise that's like kind of keeping you in that headspace. For
sure. It's like, it should be like a fucking law in my opinion. I'll go a bit harder because I know, you're an MD, you don't want, I'll go harder. Like, it should be a fucking law that if you go in with moderate or mild depression, you sit down with a psychiatrist and they're willing to prescribe you an SSRI, they should have to sit down with you and go, hey, just so you know, before you take this medication, there are multiple studies showing that if you just exercise hard, it will be as good as this medication, if not better.
Yeah. And
you're like legally required to know that. And we can, through your insurance, get you with a personal trainer to teach you how to exercise. And that is like a fucking law. If someone medical freedom, like you're saying, if they still want the SSRI, go for it. Some people need them. I don't think they should never be in existence, but I think people overprescribe them like crazy.
I mean, if we put people in exercise programs, if we spend half the, 5% of the money that we spend on chronic disease, on giving people gym memberships, then that'll never happen. But let's just say, and then teach people proper nutrition and then get outside in the sunlight in the morning. Like I think that would solve 70% of the world's problems.
It really would. Yeah, it really would. But we're a little, I don't know.
It's the same thing with GLP-1s. Same thing with GLP-1s as SSRIs. Like we're putting people on GLP-1s, but we're only given 6 to 12 minutes per visit. We're not teaching people like, hey, we're using this as a tool in order to change your habits so that you can live a healthier life when you get off of it, or at least go down to a lower dose of it.
Not just eat less, Jack in the Box.
Not just eat less, and then you end up getting like fatter from like a a ratio standpoint of muscle to fat, right? So
you need to be like working out and eating well, even if you're on GLP-1s.
Yeah, like it's great if you lost 50 pounds, but how much of that was muscle? And it's like if you get off of it, you're actually in a worse spot because muscle is like this sink for glucose. Where I mean, if you have more muscle, it's weird. If you have more muscle, you can actually like have a worse diet on certain days, and it just doesn't
100%.
Make that impact like if you didn't.
No, yeah, you have like that. Yeah, it's true. Like muscle is just add muscle, people. What else? Do you take creatine?
Oh yeah, every day. I actually upped it recently. I was taking 5 grams a day since like, when I was 20.
Yeah.
Now I'm taking anywhere between 10 to 20 grams, depending on.
Yeah.
Today, I traveled, jet lag, all that kind of stuff. So I took 20 grams this morning. There's great studies. There's that one study that's like my favorite. It's basically they took 2 groups of people and they had them take a cognitive test. They got their baseline scores. They sleep deprived both groups of people for 24 hours. And then they had one of those groups take 20 grams of creatine. The other one didn't. The group that took 20 grams of creatine just completely outperformed the one that didn't take the creatine. But they also, which is wild, after 24 hours of sleep deprivation, that group that took creatine outperformed themselves 24 hours before. So they had better cognitive scores from the 20 grams of creatine after 24 hours of which that's
dude,
wild.
I'm ripping 5 to 10 grams every day of creatine. It's so easy, it's so affordable. And like you're saying, like with mitochondria really is sort of the future, I guess, of like with our understanding of how the body works. It's like if you're improving mitochondrial function through creatine, your brain's going to work better, your organs are going to work better. So that's a really easy one.
It's a cheat code. I mean, that's the lowest hanging fruit possible to me. As long as it doesn't cause like GI distress, all the kidney stuff that we were worried about early on has just been debunked. There's really no data suggesting that taking creatine, at least at moderate doses, is going to cause any kidney issues.
One of the things with creatine as like from a supplement point of view is like back in the day when we were, sourcing and formulating our creatine is a lot of that more granular sour creatine. There are now studies showing that like when it's more absorbed in water, that, like it has better, it's not going to give you that GI distress. And so you need that powdery, fluffy creatine. And
you put it in warm water because warm water will dissociate it more. You can put it in coffee.
Yeah. It's easy to take. And I'm a huge fan of creatine. What else do you take?
I take protein. So I take whey protein pretty much every day just to hit my protein goals.
Me too.
People underestimate how hard it is to actually hit those goals. Like I want to aim for like 0.7 to 1 gram per pound every day.
Yep.
I don't hit that often. But like, especially if I'm traveling, I don't really hit it, which is, it sucks, but I want to maintain like as much muscle mass as possible, especially as I age. And I think, older people, like my parents are like, oh, I probably don't have to take as much protein as you do. I'm like, actually, you probably need to take more because you don't absorb it nearly as well as you probably did 20 years ago.
I think, like, honestly, it's sort of biased to say, but I think like almost everybody should have a small protein shake daily with creatine in there.
For sure.
I think it's one of the best things ever. You find a base that you like. I'm a big fan of like, some raw whole milk. It's all a debate. Do your almond, coconut, whatever.
Yeah.
Put that into a little blender. Put a little bit of frozen berries in there. Throw a scoop of creatine. Throw a scoop of protein powder that you like. Blend that up. If you have that every day, you will level up your health
100%.
an insane amount. Same kind of thing goes for like a Greek yogurt bowl. Like if it's the nighttime and you realize you haven't eaten that,
Greek yogurt, scoop of chocolate protein, some blueberries is like
so
the way
easy
to go for me.
Yeah, it's delicious. And like people will come up oftentimes and maybe if they're like a little overweight, they'll ask me like what they can do. And of course you can tell them, hey, get into a calorie deficit. But for a lot of people, it's just a little bit difficult for them to like, that's the truth. They need to get into a calorie deficit. But oftentimes I'll tell people I'll be like, hey, do 10,000 steps per day. And what's your goal body weight? And they're like, I want to weigh 170, eat 170 grams of protein per day.
Yep.
Do those 2 things for a month and tell me that you did not reach your goal body weight.
I agree because it shifts their perspective.
Yeah, like, and then they end up going into a deficit because when you're trying to eat 170 grams of protein in a day, tell me when the fuck you're going to have time to fit this bullshit into your diet. You don't.
Yeah, you eat a full steak and you're like, I'm pretty like you don't want the extra food after you have a full piece of steak, right?
Yeah, like we're putting everybody on these GLP-1s and GLP-3s to quiet down food noise, which can have their uses, but a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm addicted to this food. I'm like, okay, you want to order pizza late at night. Say, don't even tell yourself, I'm not a food addict like a lot of people are, but I get people have this food addiction. So don't even tell yourself that you're not going to order that pizza, okay? Go, I'm going to order this pizza. This is my routine for ordering food that whatever is like not healthy is what people should do. Consume 40 grams of protein right off the bat. Okay, cool, I'm going to order this pizza. Have a protein shake. You're still going to order the pizza. Okay. What's going to happen is they're going to order that pizza. They're either going to, one, they're probably not going to order the pizza after they have the protein, right? Let it settle in for 15 minutes. You're probably not going to order the pizza. Yeah. If you do order the pizza, you will eat far less of it and be able to hit your goals more. And it's an instant cheat code for getting people away from that food noise by adding something in. You're not sitting there starving on the couch. You're not eating something you love. And then what I also tell people is if you can afford it, like you're better off having a slice of high quality pizza than your fucking Little Caesars. Just don't do it. You're better off having 2 slices of high quality pizza than a full Little Caesars.
Or make your own pizza. Like that should be the barrier. It's like, all right, if you want pizza tonight, learn how to make your own pizza.
Oh, dude, it's what I tell people at the crumble cookie now. You know, it'd be like a mom with her kid and she'll be like, oh, but I'm like, take this $100, go make cookies at home. Yeah. You're going to connect with your family. I know you're not going to put propylene glycol, red 40, blue 1, 5 different types of sugar, all these stabilizers and additives and make 1,000-calorie single cookie for your daughter. You're not going to be able to do that. You would need high quality like machinery to be able to make a crumble cookie.
Yeah.
So
I think when you start to make those behavior modifications too, even if it's just like, let's just say the cookie thing, you go to the grocery store, you start looking at the ingredients that you're feeding yourself. Like that carries over beyond the cookies.
Yes.
I was talking to a really prominent doctor about peptides the other day, and because I'm really interested in that space, I think it's like exciting.
Yeah.
But I also understand it's not a shortcut to anything. And what he said is, you have to also understand that a lot of the benefits that they're probably going to be getting from peptides, especially if they're starting it out, is because when you start injecting yourself with shit, you start paying attention to your own body and your own 100%. Health. So you're doing, same thing. When you start making one health choice, when you start going to the gym, then you start realizing like, okay, I need to get more protein in. When you start getting more protein in, oh, maybe I'll skip dessert this time. Like it's little domino things that really have a huge impact. So like you give somebody one piece of health advice and they're just going to start noticing other things down the line.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. You can spiral up in life. And I do think that starts with health. Like at the end of the day, that's why I do a lot of what I do. It's like, you can spiral up in life or you can spiral down. And spiral down always involves some negative health behaviors, whether that's drinking alcohol, doing drugs, staying up late, whatever it is. It just causes this downward cascade of like, if you're a guy, like like if you're a young guy and you're like, you know what, fuck this, I'm just going to play video games till 2 a.m. and
slippery slope.
So then your testosterone goes down, and then like the next day you don't have that like it factor. And then you go to a job interview and someone's just kind of looking at you weird because like people can like sense this shit. Like we have like deep innate stuff that we don't know as human beings, like being able to sense like if somebody's going to be able to last in the tribe. Like we can know, like, is your immune system good? Like, is your testosterone good? Like we can have this sense. So now you fucking fail your job interview because someone's like, this dude just, it doesn't look like he has it because you had the low test from and so you spiral down.
Agreed.
And on the opposite thing, you can spiral up. So like, oh, like you went to sleep at 11, you took your fucking magnesium before bed, you wake up, you go outside and hydrate, get some light in your eyes, and you go to the gym. So now your testosterone spiking, you're getting all these mental benefits. So now you're
probably making other friends along the way that are going to encourage you to do better.
Yeah, you're meeting good people, and then like you spiral up. And I think that really, for young people especially, that can start with health. When you get older, there's a bunch of different things you can do. You can start a business, you can do these other things, relationships and all this type of stuff. Although health makes your relationship way better.
For sure.
Dude, I tweeted about this a while ago, and my wife's happy if I say this, so I'll just say this. When you are healthy, sex is 1,000 times % better.
Yeah.
You function better. This is a big part of health. Like everything that we do for health makes you function sexually better.
For sure.
And so that's like, that should drive a lot of people right there to want to be healthy. Like you have better sex, and so you're going to have a better relationship. It's like, if that doesn't inspire you right there to be healthy as a man.
It carries over in so many ways. I was one of those bro lifters that just never did cardio for so long. And literally this past year, I was like, all right, I got to start practicing.
Cardio's catabolic. Really.
Yeah, I know. I hate it. Well, you surf though, so you're like good and probably in the cardio.
No, I sort of am addicted to cardio. I'm not like a crazy, like I go on these crazy runs and stuff, but like almost every single time I'm in the gym after I hit a lift, like I'm doing some type of cardio. Lately I'm on the bike a lot because of my knee.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you weren't doing cardio.
No, not really. And so I started running probably like a year ago, maybe a little bit more. And I will say, like, I still haven't caught the runner's high. I hate it every single time. But I have so much more stamina in my work life. Like I go to work and I hit 1 p.m. and I don't get tired like I used to, just because like now I have this baseline level of metabolic health that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
And that's like misleading, I think, because I was, even in college when I was chronically sick, I mean, I had like 9% body fat. Like I looked amazing in the mirror. So in my head, I'm like, anything health-wise that happens to me is happening to me and not because of me, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, if I look okay in the mirror, then I'm doing the best I can. And like, that's just not the case. And even before I started doing cardio, that was still the case where I was like, oh, like I'm healthy, right? I started doing cardio, especially with my friends that do it a lot. And I'm like getting my ass kicked. But then I start feeling so much better during the day. And then you start realizing like, you just have to have the humility to understand like you don't have it all together until you just start picking up these things up one by one.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think, a lot of healthy people I meet, there's this common like meme of people who are super obsessed with health that they do it from a place of fear. Like when I'm checking out at a store, they'll be like, do you want your receipt? I'm like, no, I can't take receipts. And I'm like, I'm obviously like trolling a bit, but I'm also like fucking serious. Like, no, why I'm not doing it out of a place of fear. If I have to touch that receipt, then sure, I'm not gonna grab the receipt and be like scared of this.
I saw how at Costco, every time you have to like walk out the door or Sam's Club, they check everybody's receipt.
Yeah.
I'm like watching the guy at the front.
Oh,
He's probably touched 500 receipts in the last hour.
Dude,
I'm like,
do a study on that guy.
Oh my God.
And it's like, if I don't have to touch a receipt, which I don't when I buy a fucking coconut water at the grocery store, I'm not going to touch it. Yeah. And it's not out of a fear-based system. It's it's from knowledge. And it's from, I know how good I can feel. That's what many people just don't know. So like, yeah, if they start to do a lot of the basic stuff we talked about today, like start to take some of these supplements, get your labs checked. Obviously the foundation is diet, exercise, all the stuff you guys know about. But today we were able to get a bit more in depth on some of these things. And yeah, I hope that provides people with a lot of info. Where can people find you? Tell them where you can find you.
Instagram probably is where I do most of my content. So just at Dr. Clay Moss. I have a website too. We're launching a newsletter next month. So starting to collect some emails on that. So we'll keep people probably a weekly or every other week newsletter.
I love that.
But yeah.
Dude, I hope are you going to like start your own thing of like, like kind of like functional medicine docs do of like looking at people's labs and like helping them get dialed in?
Yeah, that's been the painful thing right now is because I have a lot of people reach out to me wanting me to do that, but I'm still under like the residency.
The whole system. You
can't go against the system. So I have 1 year left and I'm working on it right now. So we're definitely going to go into some sort of practice. It just depends where and how, but we'll have a telemedicine part of it.
That's good. We need more of that because I need like more doctors that are legit and are self-obsessed with human optimization that I can like refer people to. Yeah. There's a lack of them.
Yeah, I just want to get it right. I want to create a practice that I wanted to have when I was a patient.
Yeah, and
that takes time, and I'm still figuring out how to do it. So I'm glad I have a year runway of residency left to try to piece it all together before I'm out.
Dude, like there's this guy back in the day that had this business. I don't know if he still does, called the Human Garage, and I've always thought that like that like concept right there, as it evolves, like that's going to be a huge business and industry where somebody can get somebody with multiple issues and literally fucking fix them. Because I know it's out there. Like if somebody comes to you and they're like, my health's a little bad, I have this, that, I have a shoulder injury. It's like, if this person has a little bit of resources, like you could literally get them PRP, the best PT ever, start to get all their labs dialed in, get their inflammation out.
Yeah, the key is to have as many tools in the tool belt as humanly possible to be able to help your patient to the extent that they can be helped, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, if they can't financially pay for every single tool in the tool belt, that's fine, but let's at least pick the ones that are best able to, shoot down 80% of the problem so that we can help get this person's life on track. Or if you get some like millionaire that just wants to go balls to the wall and just, use every tool in the tool belt, I want to be able to do that too.
Yeah.
It's fun for me. And it's, it obviously helps the patient out the most. So,
all these doctors are having fun with me. Like I'm able to do so much shit right now that like it's very interesting to see what happens with my knee. It'll be an interesting
They're all cash pay,
experiment.
I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm gonna spend 50 fucking grand on this knee by the time this is done. I think like that's gonna be a lot of money, but it'll be interesting to kind of see because theoretically in 5 to 10 years that should be far less money to get done, and then we'll have at least a 101 study on what all these things combined.
Yeah, maybe that's how I'll build my practice. I'll just figure out what exactly you did for your knee and what worked, and that's what I'll throw in there.
Yeah, throw that protocol in there.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I'm gonna go get some stem cells, guys, injected into this knee. I'll let you guys know how that goes. And follow Dr. Clay. Leave your questions and comments below. Love y'all. Peace.